Hey, folks! Welcome to Not Jay's Tabletop Gaming Show. We still haven't come up with a name for it yet,
That works.
but we'll go with that for now.
Pretty much says it all, doesn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. So I've got Jay Wiley from Wiley Games here with me tonight, and we might possibly see the veteran wargamer join us, at least for a little while. But tonight we're talking about conventions and are they worth it? And are they worth it for the players? Are they worth it for the retailers? Are they worth it for game developers? And I'll start off with, from the gamer side. The answer is it depends. It depends on a lot of different things. If you're talking a convention like Gen Con or Adepticon or even Comic Con, that type of a convention, my answer is going to be no. They're too big, there are too many people, and you just...
Oh, man.
You can't get in to do what you want to do.
Well, Mike. Well, okay. You give your argument first on the big ones first.
Okay, here, and we are joined by the veteran wargamer,
Hello.
Jay himself. So it's the JJ and Not Jay show.
Yep.
So, what I was saying, Jay, is we're talking about conventions and whether it's worth it for the gamer. Is it worth it for the retailer? Is it worth it for the game developer? And I was taking a look at it on a gamer's note, and for the answer is
from all three.
What's that?
I said I could talk to it from all three of those.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's why I'm glad you joined me tonight. So, my answer is depends. It depends on the size of the convention. It depends on what is going on in the convention. It depends on the cost of the convention.
Well, I think that's... I mean, you start throwing in these depends and caveats and whatnot, and at the end of the day, it's up to the individual convention or whether or not it's worth it to them.
Sure.
Well,
so
you're talking about not liking the gigantic ones, and there's... obviously, if you look at the size of them, the reason why they're gigantic is because there is a crowd for that. There's people who, they wait all year for that.
Sure.
So for them, it's totally worth it. It's just, that's like the one thing that they wait for all year. And a lot of times, a chance for them to let their freak flag fly too, So, having been to Gen Con and San Diego Comic Con and things like that, none of which I had to pay for to get in. So, because
that's probably a part of a bonus.
Well, yeah, that's literally the only reason I went, because if I would have had to pay for it, then I probably would not have gone. But, if you're looking at smaller if you want to compare them to smaller conventions, then definitely it depends on why you're going there. There's people who literally only go to our favorite convention, Recruits, just to do the silent auction. That's what they live for,
Right.
So I don't know. I looking at it from the perspective of as a player, or I don't need them, because personally I'm fortunate enough to have a large gaming group that plays regularly. Of course, we didn't during COVID, but so there's a lot of people who go to conventions because that's the only time they get to play. They may live in a place that they don't have, other war gamers in their area.
Right.
So that's why they go. And then there's, as a person who sells stuff as a vendor, it is completely, dependent. I've gone to smaller conventions where it just wasn't worth it because there wasn't enough, people there to sell to. And then I've been to bigger ones where you're just sort of, since I'm not a huge name, you just get swallowed by everybody else, and everybody spends their money on the big names. And then it's just not, if I get the one that's maybe not even so gigantic, for me, by the time I pay for gas, pay for a place to stay, being here in the middle of the country, I'm going to have to drive 14 hours to go anywhere. And that means I'm probably going to, I'm going to have to rent a vehicle to carry all my stuff. So once I've stacked up all these costs at the beginning, I'm not going to make enough, to make it worth it. When I have a web store and I can just sit at home and I do nothing, to probably make the same amount of money.
Right.
Honestly, the only thing you're gaining from it is maybe you're going to get some new customers, and you might get into a market that might have not seen what you're selling, seen your wares before. So
a couple of comments here. John Longshore says, conventions are good because they show how big the U.S. is, and you realize they're too far.
Yeah, the only reason I was able to go to Fall In out in Lancaster, PA, was because I happened to be attending some professional development course at Fort Indiantown Gap, Pennsylvania, at the same time, and I was able to get a lift out there. Without a concerted effort on my part, I'm not going to be going to Historicon or Fall In or Cold Wars. Well, not Cold Wars. Cold Wars is the one up in Chicago, I suppose.
Yeah.
Or is that Little Wars? I forget. Anyway,
Cold Wars is in Chicago. Little Wars is in over there in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I mean, I went to Fall In, and it was, I couldn't go as a vendor per se. I went in there and I went in when I was still in the sort of trial phase to run games and stuff, just get feedback and everything. And, if I would have had to drive, like I said, if I would have had to drive out there and do all that stuff, I don't think I could make my money's worth. So,
yeah.
Jay, have you been up to Cold Wars or Adepticon up in Chicago?
I've been scouting Adepticon now that it's not so much of a Warhammer fest, now that it's sort of become more than just a Games Workshop convention. Yeah, if I go to a larger convention, it's going to be that one, because that one's, within a reasonable drive. Even then,
right.
Like I've told not Jay before, if it's over 4 hours, I get in a plane. So going to J3 was almost the limits of my abilities. So that was only because I wasn't driving. So
it says, John Longshore also says, who am I kidding? My wife will never let me leave the gulag. Dave Hall says, conventions are good for the special miniatures and such things.
Yeah, but American ones really don't do that often. There's a few of them, the bigger ones might, but we're not like Salute or something where that's a big offer. And for the most part, it's not why I'm going.
Right. Steve says, hey boys. Well, hey Steve, welcome. And then John says, money, travel, lodging, meals. Is it worth $500 and 3 days in close quarters with your spouse to play a game? These are all decisions one makes for themselves.
My spouse, my wife would let me go by myself.
Right. So,
and it's again, that's a good point, because if I got that kind of money to drop, I'm not going to Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I'm going to go on a beach somewhere. So, I mean, I think I've hoofed it farther. I've gone to I've gone to London twice to do stuff. So, but you know,
Yeah.
I
No.
think there's also got to keep in mind there are some very different experiences when we say a convention.
Yep.
Within the and we're not going to get into the. I don't think we're going to get into the comparison with British or European shows and American conventions, because that's a whole other topic in and of
Yep.
itself.
Yeah. It
yeah,
is.
But-
it is.
The difference in the experience between like a Gen Con and your mid-tier Adepticon or one of the HMGS East show,
Yeah,
convention.
Gen Con,
or-
I wouldn't even put in the same category, because if we're talking wargaming, that doesn't even really exist there. I mean, yes, they have it, but they got less stuff than the smallest convention I've been to when you go there, and it doesn't really represent the hobby very well either, in my opinion. So
Yeah, because at this point there's a lot more role playing and LARPing and the card games and board games.
yeah,
and,
it's much more of a board and role playing convention, whereas I think Adepticon and definitely the East Coast ones are more about wargaming. So,
right.
but if we're just talking about a regional con that people are going to go to, it really comes down to to what they're offering and what sort of experience is it worth going to. So, and I don't know if regional cons get people that are from that far away. So
Now, Panzer Scott's got a good point here. He says he's always enjoyed seeing old friends and just hanging out, trying new games. And that's another fair point.
That's definitely one of the appeals for recruits for me.
Yes.
Having grown up in the KC gaming scene, and getting to see folks that otherwise I don't get to see, right? And
meanwhile, my games, it's all the dudes that I play with normally.
well, yeah.
Well, there's some guys that come down from Lincoln that play, and I get to see them once a year. But
And apparently you're I don't know if this is secret or not, but a certain game presenter that uses Fistful of Lead using 54 millimeter French and
yes,
Indian war stuff
he will be returning to the fold. Yeah,
will be in the KC area, which I'm pretty excited for. But
I am too, because then I can play with him again. I haven't actually played games with him in years, so it'll be really cool to have Mr. Clucky back. That'll be pretty awesome. And just yep, he is back as I think the end of the month he closes on his house here, so that'll be
Excellent.
pretty sweet.
I wonder if there's something that Chris, there's something that not Jay for those watching, because actually I'll just call you Jim.
There you go.
I'm calling you.
Jim.
Anyway, now there is something that Adepticon is leaning towards now, and Gen Con definitely is, and San Diego Comic-Con, of course, is the overall geekdom convention angle. And there is a Jay, I don't know if you knew about this, there is a steampunk convention in Hannibal, Missouri,
Oh, I know.
and they have gaming at it. And I think that there's a space for folks like us who would love to game in that sort of environment or that sort of genre specifically, and put on a game or two.
Daddy
Yeah.
don't do steampunk. Daddy
Victorian
does
sci-fi.
Victorian sci-fi. It is
Okay, fine.
different. No,
yeah,
it's not the same.
I think that's a distinction without a difference, but okay.
No, I don't.
Plus
have gears
goggles on
crap.
hats.
Yeah, I don't put gears on stuff that don't have a reason. Steampunk should just be called sci-fi, because that's what it is.
Yeah.
Panzer Scott also says, been to UK Games Expo. You can head up to Nottingham and visit Mantic, Warlord Games, etc. Also been to Essen on advantage of being stationed overseas. Yeah, again, proximity does help.
Yeah.
Purple Horseman has a good point here. What about conventions being good for attracting new blood?
I would
That was
say
purely what recruits was for.
yeah. I would say definitely in the case of recruits. I think maybe in those kind of cross disciplinary conventions like we were just talking about.
Yeah, that's why I think when you start getting into, we only do historicals or something like that, then that's when you're not going to get the new blood in and stuff. You know, there's tons of people, youngsters, that started out doing sci-fi or 40K or Star Wars or fantasy, and then because of a convention that was more inclusive about what they play, they were actually got interested in historicals and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, that's recruits is a unicorn when it comes to the stated purpose of the whole convention was to bring in new blood to the hobby. So
the problem you run into with that idea with bringing in new blood is the expense. I mean,
yeah, recruits $5 to get in. You can't beat it.
Yeah, and if you're a student of any age, free. The majority of the game conventions that I'm aware of, regional wise, run anywhere from $30 to $60.
Yeah.
And if it's something you're generally interested to see if you want to find out if you like it,
that's a little bit too much.
That could be a little steep. So, I mean,
well, I'm not going to pretend to be a convention organizer by any means, but I got to think that the largest expense is the venue.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
And that is absolutely why, as a person who is trying to start a convention, that is exactly the biggest thing. And being able to keep the admission prices down because of that is really tough. That's why when I win the lottery, I'm just going to buy a gigantic metal shed and just have conventions every weekend to pay for it. Yeah, that is definitely. But if you're willing to not get a hotel or something like that, and actually there are other places. I mean, it depends on where you're at, obviously. If you're in a bigger city, then you're going to have more options. But, honestly, there aren't a whole lot of, unless it's big enough that people, and it's multi-day where people are going to come in from out of town and they're looking at staying at maybe the venue where the convention's being held. There's really no reason to have it in a really expensive place.
Right.
Now back in the 80s and 90s, I went to a number of conventions that were held in union halls around the Kansas City area and even one in the St. Louis area. I got to think that'd be a pretty convenient venue. And then also, I mean, there's, so if you get with the right commander, maybe a National Guard armory wouldn't be a bad idea.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at Fraternal Order of Police or fire department and stuff like that. That kind of venue. A lot of those, they don't get used a lot, and they're more than willing to have it, for not a whole lot of money, because it just sits there. They're not trying to make a whole lot of money off of it, because for the most part, those things are already paying for themselves with dues and stuff like that.
Or a VFW or American Legion Hall.
Yep.
Yeah. Now Todd's joined us, and Todd, you started off as a board gamer, right? And
No.
You
mean like a Euro gamer or a board war gamer?
Board war gamer.
Board war gamer. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, besides, I think was BGG Con down in Dallas, and historic what was it?
There's
Historic KC Fest or whatever it
Oh, yeah.
was
They just held
this
that.
last
Yep.
weekend.
Yep.
Are there are there board game conventions?
Oh, absolutely.
Well, there's tons of them that are non-war game, like Geek Way to the West. The one I was one of the owners of. That was mainly board games with very little war gaming, like
Yeah,
Command and Colors, and there was a Combat Commander tournament that took place.
yeah, but those are more like your Settlers of Catan or
yeah,
your Euro
Con
games.
is that too. It's more
Yeah.
Euro, and so I'd say most of them out there are Euro. But then they had these little sprinklings like Game On in Seattle. They had a pretty good contingent of ASLers and then other war gamers that would meet there. There's one that happens down in Texas, and the big group has kind of overtaken that with wargaming. And then I just attended one, here in St. Louis. It's like 25. It's small.
Yeah.
Small one. And then there's a huge one down in Phoenix called oh my gosh, it's Consim World, and it's all war games, and and it goes for a week, and it's designed for Monster Fest or whatever they call it, where they play these gigantic,
games that will take you a week long to play.
A week, yeah. And there you only get 7 turns done or something, but it's pretty cool though. And so anyway, yeah.
So, those conventions are they kind of in line with what you see like with a miniatures convention, or is it, because it seemed to me with lurking on the Historic KC Board Game Con Facebook group, it was more of, hey, I'm going to pay X number of dollars and then have individual setups of pairings on my own.
Yeah, I would say that's a big part of it. Yeah. So it's a chance for you to get, just like a miniatures game, a chance for you to get together with people that you don't get to see normally and play games, war games. There, he did a really good job of having like 4 games that were really focused on, where the creators were there. 2 of them were the creators. The Next War series with Mitch Land, who's a local St. Louis guy. And then The Last 100 Yards, which is like an ASL, but, new and modern. And that guy was there. And then they had an ASL tournament. And then there was another one where it's kind of a combined set of games, GCACW, ACW game. So I would say they're usually a mix of that. There's usually a combination where people say, hey, let's play these bigger games or have a tournament or some sort of thing. And then it's just like, hey, let's get together and play, some 1-on-1 or 4-on-4 or 4 people, 5 people playing games. I would say to me, it's just like a miniature gathering, to me, most of them. And it's just a chance for people to get together and laugh and each other's roles and, play games that you may normally play, or I don't know. To me, it's very similar. It's all the same kind of, you're trying to do the same thing. Really.
Says, going back to some comments here, Panther Scott says, always see tons of kids and teens at Historicon, and that's always a good thing. Everybody talks about the graying of the hobby. There's been graying of the hobby since Jay, not veteran wargamer Jay, not the Baron Jay. We're kids, 18, 19 years old, going, oh, the hobby's going to die off because there's no young kids anymore.
Yeah. Whatever.
Yeah. He said
it happens.
Yeah, he said brought my kids a few times.
Sorry. Go ahead.
So John Longshore's, my elf cosplay costume got ruined in the cleaners.
John. So Gen Con, I know that a local Indianapolis, Indiana, a war game group is starting to have like a war room there, or they call it a boot camp or something, and they're starting to try to get some more war games there, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I was there 2 years ago, this weekend actually, 2 years ago today.
Oh wow!
And it was a sad sight in the war game area.
Oh really? I thought they were
yeah,
getting good
it
responses.
was there was not very many, and the ones that were there were not what I would call enticing visually, to where you would be like, "Ooh, what's this? I've never seen this hobby before." And to me, if you're gonna try to bring people in, you need to bring your A game.
Right.
And yeah, it was. They had the only one that was there that was like kick ass is, I can't think of his name. It's the guy that does the really elaborate 1/72 scale World War I Canvas Eagles game. He comes out. I think he comes out to recruits too. Has the really nice wood and brass control panels and all that kind of stuff.
I've seen him before.
Yeah, so his was kind of the other. Everything else was like, oh my god.
Well, I'm
Dude,
talking
you're
about
Gen Con. Don't bring the felt out, for your tabletop.
Yeah.
I was talking about
Kind of
board war
stuff.
gamers. There's a board war game group that's trying to start that up over there.
Yeah. So
John's got a pretty good point here also. The one issue I've seen is the small local conventions tend to have players that are very focused and involved in what they're playing and not into recruiting.
Yep.
And that is very much a problem I have seen.
Well, I mean, that's all well and good, but is it incumbent upon people who are running the game at a convention into recruiting?
I don't think it's incumbent on them. You can do what you want, but it helps to. Oh, hey, what do you want to see what we're doing? Just be friendly and talk to them.
Yeah.
Oh, sure, I'll buy that. I've
been
that.
to conventions where it's obviously just like, hey, I want to have my buddies that I'm going to see, and it's like you showed up at a party where you don't know anybody, and they're all doing their own thing. So I definitely have seen that side of it before too. But it has to be like recruits. I think it has to be. You have to make it. If it's really about recruiting and bringing people in, then that has to be part of, the mission statement of the convention.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And you see,
even that private one, even that little one with 25 people, we're in a small hotel here in St. Louis, and people inevitably walk by and like, well, what's going on here? Even their group, where we're like purposely like we're getting down to play, 5 days of hardcore big games. Even there, we're inviting like, oh, hey, come on in. We'll talk. We talk to them about the game and
yeah.
You always get the hotel staff that are like, what the hell's going on in here?
Them too.
John says, and those with tournament play are just scary. That's the one thing I think that I can say about recruits did very well, and that was kind of insulate the tournaments that they did have at the convention.
I don't know. They put the Flames of War dudes like right in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
They did for a while, and then they just they did finally move them downstairs.
Yeah, but when they moved them downstairs, all of a sudden you started to notice that, wow, a lot of the games that were upstairs were their games. So you'd walk into the convention and think, man, they got a lot of games here, when it really wasn't. There were actually quite a bit of the games that were there were actually the Flames of War guys running their tournaments. So once they went downstairs, especially the last couple of years, then it started looking like, wow, this isn't as big as I thought it was.
Yeah. I mean, it's a fine line you have to definitely.
Yeah, the thing I've never played in the tournament. The thing I've never played in the tournament, but the thing I think is cool about them is that you get a lot of games in and play a lot of different styles. It depends on what kind of tournament it is, though, I suppose. But
yeah, I'm not competitive, so the whole thing is lost on me.
So Jay, who is that guest you just said on your podcast?
Dan Gomez,
who I'm now like a huge fanboy of.
Yeah, Dan's great.
I mean, I followed him. I followed that one of his interview. I mean, that guy's incredible. Anyway, I still need to finish the show he was on.
Fair enough.
Because I jumped off and listened to a show. Anyway, he seems like a cool guy. I mean, hearing him talk, like he plays a lot of games, right? He plays in tournaments and all that, but he just sounds like he just plays to play.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, gosh, I need to see more people like that in that particular game, because he and the person he was interviewing, they sound awesome.
Yeah.
I'm not going to play the game, but
yeah, for context, my most recent episode 70, was with Dan Gomez, who is the host of the Lonely Havocs podcast, and we were starting a series on how to get started in the hobby. And this first episode was exactly about that, just simply how to go about getting the tools and the paints and how to start getting in the hobby. And Junior Wargamer there was in the intro.
I noticed. Yep.
He just went by there.
Yeah. So, I guess, being from, a vast majority of my gaming was either done in Kansas City or Austin, both of which have phenomenal
We got a ton of people that play.
gaming.
Yeah,
The
communities.
gaming scene in those two cities are amazing. And I think because they have such strong gaming scenes, they have my two most favorite conventions, and that's Recruits. We'll see where that goes, and Millennium Con. Millennium Con, I would say, is, if you're going to call Adepticon a quote mid-major convention, this is probably a Division II style. They'll easily get 450 to 500, if not close to 600 or 700 sometimes.
Yeah, I got invited to come down there, and I was just like, I just don't know if I can justify it.
Yeah. I mean, if you can swing it at where, I know sometimes conventions will make a premier guest, and they will actually pay to have that person come in. If you could swing that with them, I would highly recommend going, because the gaming group there in Austin is amazing, both historical and the fantasy / sci-fi guys.
Point of order.
Go ahead.
Adepticon's own numbers for 2019, the last year it was held, 6,500 unique attendees, 6,500.
Okay,
So that's
pretty major.
That's putting it past the HMGS.
Yeah. It's
Okay.
on a level. It's on a level of almost Gen Con.
Gen Con's into the 5 figures.
Yeah.
Like well into the 5 figures.
Yeah, high 5 figures.
50,000.
So it's, well, I still remember when, they were talking about 2,500, 3,000 type of numbers.
Okay, according to Wikipedia, Gen Con 2019 was about 70,000.
Ah,
Hoy, that's that's too many
Yeah.
people for my
I'll
taste.
tell you though, it's all separated. So if you don't want to go over and be in the main hall with the thousands and thousands of people, you don't have to.
Yeah, it is spread way.
It is spread
way out.
everywhere.
It's
I
all over
played-
downtown in Indy.
Yeah, I
Okay.
played a original Gamma World game, role-playing game, on the 50-yard line of the Indianapolis Colts Stadium, because they have Colts Stadium as part of, they've spilled into that. And every hallway that's connected to the convention center has people in it, has
Yeah.
vendors, has everything. It's,
That's crazy.
yeah, it's pretty crazy.
I mean, you could spend the whole weekend just walking around and not playing in anything
Right.
and not see everything. So if you didn't want to hang with the LARPers and you didn't want to hang with the card guys, you wouldn't have to technically.
Yeah. And also as Steve commented earlier on Facebook when I posted the link. He says, I said, conventions, what are they good for? Spreading the crud. And that's
Well,
that's something to also
and
take into
I also
consideration.
and I posted less and less because for me it's it's as now that I'm not really playing and I'm a vendor, it's really it's got to be something for me to come out because like I said a lot of these I could sit at home and make the same amount of money just
Right.
out of my web store and not have to actually spend anything. So but as a gamer, if I just look at it purely as someone who was going to a convention, I'm almost the same way. But again, I had the caveat that I'm definitely spoiled. I have a game group that I play with regularly once a week,
Yeah.
and we play all the time. So it's like there's people who just that's their only time that they get to play with me. But
Hey, knock it off.
So yeah, and I had that in Austin also.
yeah,
Every Thursday night and every Sunday afternoon, I would hoof on down to my FLGS and have a game of what. Who knows? Sometimes I would put it on, sometimes someone else would put it on, but
yeah,
we would always do it. So I guess for me now, I want to make sure that I've got a decent gaming event about once every 3 months because of where I live out here in the sticks these days. Yeah, I'm only an hour and a half or so from St. Louis, at least far west side of the metro area. And until recently, I only had 1 day a week where I could conceivably get out and do something unless I had prior plans made. So if I can find a convention that will give me the type of games I'm looking for and will not cost an arm and a leg to go to, then yeah, they're going to be worth it for me. But going to just to go, like, hey, let's go see what's happening. Excuse me, I've got a hard time doing that. Because I do know there are some conventions out there that provide a quote visitor's pass. You only pay $5-10 and you get a different colored badge that allows you to roam the hall, see if there's anything you like. And
that's the other thing about Gen Con is you have to pay to get in, then you got to pay to play.
Yeah. Yeah, that's also, not quite sure about all of that, so, but if I'm, if I knew there was a game convention going on in St. Louis and I could get a visitor's pass and just, drop in and see if there's anything I like and then go back and say, yeah, I'll go ahead and buy a day pass. Sure. Why not? I'll do it. But, I'm more looking for, an event where I'm planning to go. So, Jay's, the Veteran Wargamers, annual gaming event where we get people from, friends from all over to come and play games with us. That's my summer event. And then I do kind of the same thing in the wintertime. So that's my winter event. I'm hoping that we'll see something come about in October with Mr. Wiley and his continued
definitely
event. And then, so March, April timeframe is definitely one, an area that I'm looking for as well.
Yeah.
So if I can get, a gaming event once every 3 months, I'm happy, because I don't have the ability to, have a game with, different people other than my brother.
Yeah, he wants to do that.
Dude, I certainly don't want to play with my brother. Are you kidding?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because all you would get is coughed on.
Well, I mean, here in the near future, I sent Dan a 15 millimeter Predator.
No,
And
there you go.
he's going to paint it on the stream, and we're going to have some What a Space Tanker. Well, What a Rogue Trader Space Tanker over in Fairview Heights.
Oh, nice.
So once he's got that painted up, so we'll be able
Straight
to.
out of Fairview.
Yeah. So Todd, I'll keep you in the know on that.
Cool.
If you ever venture into the wilds of St. Clair County.
Yeah, you're welcome to come out this way too for end of August. We're having a special all day Saturday Star Wars game for Galactic Heroes for a certain gentleman's 50th birthday. So,
Two Action Steve.
Two Action Steve having his 50th. So that's what he wants to do. I tried to talk him into strip clubs, but he said, no, I want to play with soldiers. So
Are we going to strip minis? We could strip minis. That'd be cool.
Bring your simple green.
Woo, baby.
So, so I'm painting up this bad boy for that.
Oh, sweet.
Oh, look at that.
So we got the skiff coming in. Well, we're hopefully going to have multiple ones. So, yeah.
Chris Longe says, God, who let Jay in?
Which one?
Without an E.
Oh, there we go. Good. I feel better now.
And he's asked, how's it going, eh? Oh, we're doing okay. How's the Great White North? So and I know about the game shows over in the UK and over in Europe, but what's the game scene up in Canada? Are there game conventions up there?
There are. My understanding is there are. We probably need to get either Barnaby Orr, Pat Gilliland, or Chris, for that matter, on to talk about that. Or Dan Williams, another Canadian gamer I know.
Yeah. So I just wonder, are they more Euro style or are they more American style?
Well, it has to do with the distances traveled. I think they do.
Yeah. They make our distances look minuscule.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they do long distance, multi-day. You're there, in for a penny, in for a pound, the whole schlemiel.
That's what's so weird about Salute is the fact that it's so big, but it's one day, so almost nobody games because they're just busy running around buying stuff.
Right. He says yes, but not as many as in the US and the UK. So, yeah, I would have to think that, if they've got something going on in Winnipeg, it would have to be definitely a concerted effort.
And certainly couldn't be on a weekend that the Argos were playing.
No. Or the Jets. So, yeah, long distance, 2 to 3 days. Yeah, I can see that. Now, something that you don't really hear about often, and I know they're out there because I've heard of them, is conventions on the left coast. I've heard of Kubla Khan.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Pacificon. Thomas does Pacificon and Kubla Khan. He's been trying to get me to come out for a couple of years.
So, you don't hear about them. Of course, I'm sure in California, they don't hear about Recruits. They don't hear about Millennium Con. But yeah, I don't know of any, nationally known conventions out that way. I guess KublaCon is the closest you get to a nationally known convention out there.
Mhm.
San Diego Comic-Con has quite a bit of gaming.
Oh, there is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, I thought it was sad, but
Well, it's better than nada. And
yeah. I don't. It's just that part's just never been kind of pushed. So
Yeah. So, I'm
and I'm a snob, so
So, like Jay, the veteran war gamer, commented early on, it's, really dependent on each person, what they're looking for a convention, as to whether a convention is going to be worth it to them or not. And again, I'll go back and say, a local mid-range 500, 600, 700 people, I think that's about my limit. I don't want more people. So I'm not a crowd person. I don't like a lot of people around me.
Mm.
You want up here, buddy? Come on. If I could have a convention where it's just my cats, then we're doing good. But yeah, I'm I'm not a crowd person at all. So I don't know if I would ever attend something like Gen Con. I do want to go to Historicon or one of those East Coast conventions once, because, just because of the historical significance, and not because of historical gaming, but let's see what Panther Scott says. This Strategicon runs 3 conventions a year in LA. All right. So yeah, and that's another thing. Running a convention is not an easy venture.
No.
Yep.
I have been on the backside of a convention before, helping get it going. Not only in the formative stages of getting one up and going, but also as a presenter. The old Skirmishes convention in Kansas City from the mid-90s. So, at first when I heard that, Recruits was going from a twice a year venture to once a year, I was a little bummed. But then I remembered how much effort goes into putting one of those things together, and realizing
I thought it was a good idea because you had a lot of vendors who couldn't come twice a year.
Yeah.
Just didn't plan to come, so you ended up kind of spreading out what you had rather than kind of condensing and getting a better experience out of it. So that
Yeah, in I think. Hold on. Okay, and I think Recruits became a better show for it in the long run, because it was just those. It was just that once. There, at least for me, it garnered more excitement. Had more people there, that type of thing. So, Walkabout says the one I go to here on the West Coast, Attack X, is 600 to 18 people over 2 days. That would be my absolute max, I think. Again, unless I'm going to like Historicon for a one-time gig.
as a player, if I just went purely as a player now, and I knew I didn't have to run anything, it would really have to be something for me to like want to go.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It would have
Yeah.
to be like an event kind of a thing, you know.
Yeah. Well, I'm so used to running a game at a convention that I go to. I don't know if I could just go as a gamer. You know?
Yeah.
Because that's one thing that most conventions will do for you is if you will run an event for them, they will deduct a certain amount off of your entry fee.
Yeah, because they
Um,
want to have a lot of games.
Yeah. So, I've got no problem lugging stuff and putting on, 1, 2, possibly even 3 games. If you're going to get me in cheaper,
Mm-hmm.
fine by me. Vader Scott says Brookhurst Hobbies is a great gaming store in Garden Grove, California, just south of LA. I have actually heard of Brookhurst Hobbies, but not from gaming, but from model railroading.
And yeah, I went there once when I was on a business trip, and before that, it was one of the few places that you could order from too. So there were a lot of
Yeah.
They were one of the first like distributors for a lot of companies. So if you didn't actually go there, they were one that you could order from too. That's where I got most of my 15 millimeter Japanese all came from there. Double Dragon. They were the only ones that carried it.
Oh wow! I know they carry Peter Pig too and stuff like
Yep,
that.
they carry
Yeah.
Peter Pig too.
Chris Long says, and it's done spread out over university grounds. Hell, there you go.
Southern Illinois University used to have Egyptian Campaign, which is a spring gaming convention. It was all in the student center at SIU, and it is gone by the wayside. They had their last one like 2 years ago. Unfortunately, that was a neat convention. Speaking of doing a convention at a school,
Yeah. Online conventions have been pretty nice, but I just despise Vassal on principle. Don't want to learn it. Now I can play Civ 6. That isn't complicated. Yeah. Yeah. With the onset of COVID and having to distance and not group up and speaking of COVID, hold on.
Yeah, COVID Chris.
hey, his mute button does work.
Yay!
Shut up.
I ran quite a few online games over it. So
and so we found games that lent themselves to that type of play. Fistful of Lead being one of them. What a Tanker is one of them. So yeah, I think we're going to see probably more hybrid style conventions. So that'll be interesting to see. But a lot of Peter Pig from there. Yeah. They were our vendors in 76. Brookhurst. Duke Siegfried was their salesman.
yep, the Duke himself.
And then San Diego Historical Games Con. All right.
Didn't know that was a thing.
And NashCon later this month in Nashville. Yeah, that's a pretty well known convention. So
Yeah, I've been wanting to go to NashCon for a while, but I just haven't been able to.
swing it. You've
Make
always
it
been on
happen.
drill.
Yeah, everything cool you want to do is during drill weekend. It's
Whose fault
it's
is
one
that?
of Murphy's laws.
Whose fault is that?
So, hey, if I could make my own training schedule or my own training calendar, I would. that's
Every time I have
echelons above
something,
me.
oh, I got training that weekend.
Oh well, it's it's how it goes.
At
So,
what point are you going to be trained?
Never. It's a continuous process.
says, don't miss drill weekend. Nope. We don't want to do that. And then Ben Scott says, my son has drill weekend that
Yeah.
weekend.
See. There were a number of recruits when Dwayne was still doing twice a year. There were a number of recruits that were on drill weekends.
Yeah. Oh. But yeah, I think when as we start coming out of the tunnel of separation and of COVID, I think conventions will be able to ramp back up, and
Oh yeah.
they'll eventually we'll see them again as the fun that what they can be. Some of the smaller conventions might go by the wayside for various reasons, but I think we'll see some stalwart and August. Anyway, conventions marshal through and be there for us. So, like I said early on, I'm not a fan of the big ones. I like the ones, 600-700 people maybe. And yeah, for me, they're worth it. As a gamer, they're worth it. Get to see new and exciting things. And it's how I learned about Fistful of Lead. Walked into Recruits and saw this table with real trees sitting on it, and these amazingly painted 54 millimeter French and Indian war figures that Chris Clucky put together, and walked up and said, "Hey, what's this?" It's a great game. It's called Fistful of Lead. The guy over there designed it. And,
I'm pretty sure my first experience with Fistful of Lead was Wasteland Warriors when it was still in its earliest beta stages.
Yeah.
And my wife and kids played with me. Had the big orange guy.
Orange Julius.
There it is.
Yep. Where's Julius? John Longshore says, drill weekends. That is 15 times 12 weekends in my life I'll never get back. Fort Custer, Michigan. Yag. And then that 54 millimeter armies looked amazing. Yeah, though, Chris Clucky's stuff is just
Spectacular.
Yeah, it's disgustingly gorgeous.
Yeah, it's like model train, like level terrain.
He actually is what inspired me to 3D print my trees for my indoor game.
Yeah.
So, buddy, you just like being in my face, right? There you go. Well, I think we probably talked this up. Oh, wait, we got one more. I attended ClawCon at St. Robert, Missouri in 2018. Small convention of about 150 people, but it hasn't been around since because the founder moved out of state.
Yeah, that's the other part of it. Is you got to have somebody with the will to run it.
Yeah.
You know?
And like I said, it's just, they're not easy things to put together, especially if you want the public to attend.
Yeah.
So, but, well, I think we've run our course this evening. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Good time.
Thank you for your insight.
I'm always down to talk games.
Yeah, so Don't know what my topic is going to be for next week. If anybody's got a grand idea, throw it my way. We'll see what we can pull out of the hat, so to speak. I may or may, depending on if McMurray is available tomorrow, I may or may not have just a come on and talk about random stuff. So, good night there, Chris. Have a good night. Take care. Hope you cool down eventually. So, with that, guys, thanks again. All my viewers, thank you for watching. And be on the lookout on the normal places to see if we're going to be doing this tomorrow night. So, take care. Good luck. And see you on the flip side.